Welcome to Cloudcast, where you get an inside look at St. Cloud, Florida's local government. Whether you live, work, or play here, we're bringing you the information you need to better understand your city. Cloudcast is hosted by our communications team, including Miriam Batchelder, Andrew Sullivan, Deborah Carson, and Jay B. Miller. Thanks for listening in to Cloudcast.
Well, welcome, St. Cloud. This is Andrew with the St. Cloud Communications Office. I'm joined here with Jay B. Miller.
Hey, everybody.
And we have two great guests today to talk about a really important topic, definitely one to keep you safe, and that is lightning safety. And we're joined today with our St. Cloud Aquatics Superintendent, Gaby Durand, as well as the National Weather Service's Warning Coordination Meteorologist, Will Ulrich. So welcome.
Thanks, Andrew. Happy to be here.
Yes, also happy to be here.
If we could start out and kind of explain in your day-to-day what your role is and how our lightning and lightning detection and weather safety affects what you do.
Okay, so as he said, I'm Gaby Durand, the Aquatic Superintendent. So I oversee the Chris Lyle Aquatic Center and our splash pad, our famous lakefront splash pad. So with being an outdoor facility and in the hot summer months, lightning affects our area and our operation a lot. So from the lifeguarding to any of our programmings, and as well as, again, the splash pad, if lightning is detected, it will shut off immediately for your guys' safety. So that way you guys know to kind of clear that area, and we'll reopen as soon as it gets out of a safe distance.
Very cool. And Will?
So my name is Will Ulrich. I'm the Warning Coordination Meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Melbourne. Whether you realize it or not, the vast majority of the weather information that you receive on your cell phone, that you get on radio, on television, ultimately has an origination within the Weather Service. And so everyone in St. Cloud, as taxpaying citizens, contribute to the very important mission that is the federal government and the National Weather Service. So we have that primary responsibility to issue tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, hurricane warnings, and things like that. So it is our job to try and keep the public safe throughout the entire year.
And you provide information to everybody, a very broad range of people. And in the segment that I fill, I am a native-born Floridian. I have lived in Central Florida almost all of my life, and I'm sort of, I would say, very familiar with the weather patterns, especially in the summertime. But I feel like there's so many people that are either new to the area or visit the area that are less familiar. So, Will, I guess just sort of a general primer on the dangers of lightning.
Sure. I think it's important to step back and look at the big picture and first understand that when does the lightning threat materialize, right? We can see lightning 365 days out of the year. Doesn't mean we get thunderstorms every single day, but understand we have two very distinct seasons in Central Florida. Myself, I grew up in South Jersey where we had 4 seasons, right? But coming down to here in Florida, we've got 2 very distinct seasons, the warm and wet and the cool and dry. Now, we're in the throngs of the warm and wet season as we speak. So from the middle of May through the middle of October, that's when moisture levels are at their highest. That's when the sun angle is at its highest. Those 2 are the primary ingredients that we look for to see those afternoon showers and thunderstorms develop, right? So we wake up thinking to ourselves, oh, it's going to be a great day here in Central Florida. Skies are blue and they're clear. But within a couple of hours, we start to see those billowing cumulonimbus clouds that eventually go on to produce showers and thunderstorms. So that warm and wet season is the crux of the season when we see the vast majority of our rainfall. Why do I call it the wet season? Well, that 5-month period from the middle of May through the middle of October, we get 2/3 of our annual rainfall. That's why we call it the warm and wet season, other than the fact that we know how humid it is outside, right? So that's the time of year when thunderstorms pose the greatest risk to us as Central Floridians. That is when the lightning threat is at its highest. But understand that when those ingredients come together, even in December and January, that lightning threat can materialize. But understand it happens most frequently during the summer.
And, is there any one demographic or person that fits the bill of people likely to be struck?
The bottom line is there is no safe place to be outside. So individuals who work outside or find themselves recreating outside more than others will ultimately have a higher risk. Mm-hmm. Okay? We define severe thunderstorms 2 ways, through either wind or hail. Wind of 60 miles per hour, hail of greater than 1 inch in diameter or greater. That's how we classify a thunderstorm. But we do not classify a thunderstorm as severe based on lightning. And why is that? because wind and hail need to reach a certain threshold before it becomes potentially deadly to human beings. The catch with lightning is it can be the first strike, it can be the last strike, it can be the only strike out of a cloud. And the fact is, if you're in the wrong place in the wrong time, 99% of the time that is outside, you can potentially be hurt or killed by lightning. So at the end of the day, it's about reducing risk, and the demographic, if you will, that will find themselves more at risk are those who are outside more often.
And so, Gaby, the city has actually really invested in systems to help mitigate that risk, reduce that risk. Can you talk a little bit about the lightning detection systems that we use?
So we have Earth Networks as our provider, and we use the Thor Guard, which is the lightning detector that you might hear, sometimes the sirens and the blasts, but we can set it up to different parameters. So we have one specifically for lakefront, we have one specifically for the pool. I know they have them at the ball fields and a lot of the parks, but we can set the detection. Typically we go with the 10-mile radius is what we want to ensure that it's cloud to ground lightning that it's catching. And if it does get into that 10-mile radius, that's when you'll start to hear those sirens going off.
And so I was at the 4th of July celebration at the Lakefront Park, as everybody was, and it's nearly a given that there's going to be a storm or some rainfall on the 4th of July. That's just how it works. But what I overheard was conversations of just residents that were there who didn't really understand what the tones meant from the system. Can you kind of break that down?
Yes. So when lightning is detected, you are going to hear 3 loud, long blasts, and then typically a strobe that goes off so that you can obviously see that something is active in the area. And then when it gets cleared, you'll hear 3 short whistle blasts. So sirens. They kind of sound very similar, so everyone just kind of looks to wait for the strobe light to turn off, because then they're like, okay, now it's not an active alert.
And what is the expectation from people that are at a park when that goes off?
Well, for like the pool area, we have to clear the entire facility. So we try to tell them to quickly gather their belongings, safely make their way out towards the exit. A lot of them want to stay under the pavilion, but we're like, it's still not safe underneath here. Obviously, in the park area, we're hoping that you take shelter somewhere, go back into your vehicles or things like that, but there's no one really there to monitor that to get you guys out. So typically why our lakefront splash pad will turn off is so we know that we're telling you, hey, it is not safe. We want to clear this area.
And Will, as you discussed already, the safest place is not out in the open, not under a tree, so you want to definitely be indoors, or is in a vehicle a safe enough shelter?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
The bottom line I want everyone to remember is there's no safe place outdoors that is safe from lightning. So pavilions, we often see a lot of people, especially even at sporting events, they get into the dugout thinking to themselves, I'm protected from the rain, so I'm protected from the lightning. And that's not how it works at all. Anything that's exposed to the outside could potentially, still be impacted by lightning. So keeping safe by getting into a structure of some kind, specifically, 4 walls that has plumbing and electricity, because it's actually the plumbing and electricity that is grounded that will absorb the vast majority of the energy of that lightning strike and carry it safely into the ground. So sheds, believe it or not, are not safe places to be. Hard-topped vehicles, so metal-topped vehicles, are safe options, including school buses, important as we begin to see the start of a new school year here coming up very soon. So soft top convertibles do not provide the same level of protection, because that lightning strike can effectively go directly through the cloth.
And one of the things that I definitely preach is be prepared, stay informed, and understand what the weather is going to be like for the day. Is there, between the two of you, is there any, without making an endorsement, recommendations on ways to find that information?
I mean, we solely rely on the Earth Networks the most of the time, but I mean, like he said, it could be beautiful, and then 5 minutes later you start to see it billowing in. So the number one question I get all the time from, our residents when we're at the pool is like, hey, do you know when it's going to stop? And I'm like, I wish I did. I'd make a lot more money probably if I did, to be able to bet on what the weather changes were. But it's so unpredictable sometimes. It comes so fast. We can have a beautiful day where I look at the weather and there's nothing on the radar, and then boom, there it is. Or we'll use WeatherBug if we're looking for just like local things too, just to kind of get a general idea. We'll bounce back between those two.
For us at the Weather Service, it's just really important to increase your awareness in your surroundings. So, of course, monitoring the forecast the day before or the morning of, because we all know that, again, waking up and looking outside is not a harbinger of what's going to happen later in the day here in Central Florida, right? Because you can start off with those blue skies and then it turns into dark, stormy skies within a couple of hours. So when you're outside, increasing that level of awareness by looking up and looking at those clouds, looking for certain features like the darkening of cloud bases or the extent to which those clouds extend into the sky, because the taller the cloud, the greater the threat for lightning. So these lightning detection systems, it's very important for us to differentiate too. Lightning detection will tell you once lightning has already occurred, but how do you keep yourself safe when there's the threat of lightning developing directly overhead? So you have to look for those visual cues from Mother Nature. Use a weather app to tell you what is going on from our weather radar so that you can see, hey, are there showers and thunderstorms developing in the area? Or just use visual cues, including, again, the development of those clouds in and around your surroundings. We say, again, to monitor for lightning at least 5 to 10 miles from your surroundings. So it's not just what occurs above your head, it's also what occurs in your surroundings. So increasing that level of awareness when you're outside is a critical part of staying safe.
Yeah, I think I have no less than 3 ways to find the information you guys put out, either through just the weather app on your phone, or My Radar, or even the Beacon app, or FEMA. I know they also have a separate one where they publish, if there's a flood watch or warning going on, those sorts of things.
There's a lot of different apps available to you out there. Understand that having multiple ways to receive warning messages is a critical part, but I do just want to stress that the National Weather Service doesn't issue products specific to lightning. And so having applications that tell you how close lightning is to your location, or relying on systems that the county or the city has invested in to tell you when there is a threat in and around your surroundings is an important part. But having multiple ways to receive severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings is an important part of the puzzle to keep you and your family safe.
Now, I know getting information from the National Weather Service is great, but there's also something that our listeners, our residents, can provide a service back to you through the Skywarn program. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up, Andrew. The Skywarn program is a neat volunteer organization that we've kind of instituted really in our office's 35-year history, and we've trained upwards of 7,000 residents of East Central Florida to identify visual cues in the atmosphere and report severe weather to us. In other words, we teach them what to look for on days when we're anticipating strong or severe thunderstorms. So it's a 2-hour class that we can host here in the city or at the county. We have at least one in Osceola County every single year. And you spend a little bit of time learning about what hazards pose the greatest threat and risk to the residents of Central Florida, learn how to stay safe from those risks, but more importantly, how to report that weather to us at the National Weather Service so that we can update those watch warnings and advisories that are a critical piece of the puzzle in keeping our residents safe. So if you're looking for that, I highly encourage you to check out our website at weather.gov/Melbourne. Because you all here in Osceola County are covered by the Melbourne National Weather Service Forecast Office. So we encourage you to check out our schedule. Right on the bottom of the page, you can click on Skywarn and see a list of upcoming classes. And there may just be a class right here in St. Cloud or the county of Osceola before the end of the year. So keep an eye out.
That's great information, Will. Thank you. I think we're at the point now where Gaby Miller typically comes in and has a hard-hitting question for the panel.
I'm just wondering, because you hear, I hate once in a while, you hear about people getting struck by lightning and whatnot. And I have heard people say that if somebody gets struck by lightning, they should go get an EKG.
So when a person is struck by lightning, it's important to recognize that, believe it or not, only about 10% of those that are struck by lightning actually end up succumbing to those injuries and dying. So about 75, 80, 85% of individuals end up being injured from that lightning strike. And there's a lot of hesitation in the part of individuals who are around that person who were struck because they are scared that the individual might still be electrically charged. That is not the case. The individual loses that electrical charge almost instantaneously after the lightning strike occurs. So ensuring that the individual is safe and has the appropriate medical care is an important part of the puzzle. Now, again, the most important thing to monitor is the person awake and cognizant and able to have that one-on-one conversation, because at that point, then the best course of action is to call 911. If the person is unable to respond to you or has basically passed out from the lightning strike, CPR is an option to ensure that individual continues breathing, but I'm not sure that an EKG would necessarily be the most appropriate route. The most important part, of course, is to call 911 and get that authorities involved as quickly as possible.
So we're sort of towards the end of this. I'll give you an opportunity if there's anything that we haven't discussed today that you'd like to add.
Just so for our residents, we do have our active alerts that are available on our website. So if you do go to the city page and you go into Aquatics, you can see that the Chris Lyle and the lakefront is there, and it'll go red and say it's active and give you a countdown so you can kind of see where that's at before you plan your day to come to the pool if we're already in. Or, of course, you can always call us and we'll let you know. If you're at the lakefront and you look at our rules, you will see that there is a QR code that will open it up directly to that active alert. So if you get there and it's during operating hours and it is off and it looks like the sky's nice and sunny out, you can always check that because it could mean that there's still lightning in that 10-mile radius.
Lightning to me is a fascinating phenomenon of the atmosphere. We're talking about something that heats the air up to 50,000 degrees. And so you go from this temperature, whatever the atmosphere is, 70, 80, 90 degrees to 50,000 degrees in an instant. And what happens is that air rapidly expands so quickly that it actually breaks the sound barrier. So when you hear thunder, you're actually hearing many sonic booms up and down the entire atmospheric column. And that's why thunder kind of lasts as long as it does, because you're hearing that sonic booms that are being created. So it's a fascinating thing that Mother Nature offers to us every single summer, right? And we're entering the peak of lightning season here in Central Florida. So it's not something to be afraid of, but it's just something to be aware of. I will tell you that because of a lot of the lightning awareness campaigns that were put forth back in the 90s and 2000s, including when thunder roars, goes indoors, or as early as back as the 30-30 rule, like if you hear thunder within 30 minutes, you're still not safe. So it's better to stay indoors. That has statistically significantly dropped the number of fatalities that we've seen in the United States. Upwards of 50 to 70 people per year were killed on an annual basis back in the 1990s. We're now down to only about 15 to 25. So we've seen a drop in the number of lightning fatalities here, not just in Florida, but in the United States. So increasing your level of awareness and staying safe is a critical part as we enter the peak of lightning season here in Central Florida.
Well, and that's the goal, right? I think is to have zero fatalities, zero people injured, everybody stay safe. And thank you both for being a part of this discussion today. Hopefully we're a part of that solution as well. So Will and Gaby, thank you for joining us. And City of St. Cloud, thank you for listening to Cloudcast, the City of St. Cloud's official podcast.
Thanks for stopping by. That's it for this edition of Cloudcast. Don't forget to like, follow, rate, and review, and we'll see you next time on Cloudcast.